Numbers chapter 33. Now these are the stages in the journeys of the children of Israel who went out from the land of Egypt by their armies under the hand of Moses and Aaron. So Moses wrote their departures and the stages in their journeys by the way of the Lord, by the word of the Lord. They departed from Ramses in the first month on the 15th day of the first month. On the day after Pascha, the children of Israel went out with a high hand before all the Egyptians. But the Egyptians were bearing from among themselves all who died, whom the Lord struck down, every firstborn in the land of Egypt. And the Lord executed vengeance on their gods. Then the children of Israel departed from Ramses and camped in Succoth. They departed from Succoth and camped in Etham, which is part of the desert. They departed from Etham and camped at the mouth of Hahiroth, which is opposite Baal Zephon, and they camped opposite Migdol. They departed opposite Hahiroth and passed through the midst of the sea into the desert. And they went 3 days' journey through the desert and camped at Marah. They departed from Marah and came to Elim. At Elim there were 12 springs of water and 70 palm trees, so they camped there by the water. They departed from Elim and camped by the Red Sea. They departed from the Red Sea and camped in the desert of Sin. They departed from the desert of Sin and camped at Dophkah. They departed from Dophkah and camped at Alush. They departed from Alush and camped at Rephidim, where there was no water for the people to drink. They departed from Rephidim and camped in the Sinai desert. They moved from the Sinai desert and camped at Graves of Lust. They departed from Graves of Lust and camped at Hazeroth. They departed from Hazeroth and camped at Rithmah. They departed from Rithmah and camped at Ramon Perez. They departed from Ramon Perez and camped at Libnah. They departed from Libnah and camped at Rissah. They departed from Rissah and camped at Kehelatha. They departed from Kehelatha and camped at Shepher. They departed from Shepher and camped at Harada. They departed from Harada and camped at Mikaloth. They departed from Makaloth and camped at Tahath. They departed from Tahath and camped at Tirah. They departed from Tirah and camped at Mithkah. They departed from Mithkah and camped at Hashmonah. They departed from Hashmonah and camped at Mazeroth. They departed from Mazeroth and camped at Bnei Jaskan. They departed from Bnei Jaskan and camped at Hor Hagadad, or Hor Hagadagad. They departed from Hor Hagadad and camped at Jotbatha. They departed from Jotbatha and camped at Abrona. They departed from Abrona and camped at Ezion Geber. They departed from Ezion Geber and camped in the desert of Sin. And they departed from the desert of Sin and camped in the desert of Paran. This is Kadesh. They departed from Kadesh and camped at Mount Hor, near the land of Edom. Then Aaron the priest went up at the command of the Lord and died there, in the 40th year of the exodus of the children of Israel, out of the land of Egypt, in the 5th month, on the 1st day of the month. Aaron was 123 years old when he died on Mount Hor. Now this was the time when the Canaanite king of Arad, and this man dwelt in the land of Canaan, heard the children of Israel were coming. Then they departed from Mount Hor and camped at Zalmonah. They departed from Zalmonah and camped at Punon. They departed from Punon and camped at Oboth. They departed from Oboth and camped at Abiram, at the borders of Moab. They departed from Abarim and camped at Dibon Gad. They departed from Dibon Gad and camped at Almon Diblathaim. They departed from Almon Diblathaim and camped in the mountains of Abiram before Nebo. They departed from the mountains of Abraham and camped west of Moab by the Jordan opposite Jericho. They camped by the Jordan between Beth Jezimoth as far as the Abel Acacia Grove, west of Moab. Now the Lord spoke to Moses west of Moab by the Jordan opposite Jericho, saying, Speak to the children of Israel and say to them, You are crossing over the Jordan into the land of Canaan. Then you shall destroy all the inhabitants of the land before your face, and you shall remove their high places, and as for all their molten idols, you shall destroy these, and you shall remove all their pillars. You shall also destroy all the inhabitants of the land and dwell in it, for I give you their land as an inheritance. Therefore you shall inherit their land by lot among your tribes. To the larger you shall give a larger inheritance, and in the smaller you shall give a smaller inheritance. There everyone's inheritance shall be whatever falls to him by lot. You shall inherit according to the tribes of your fathers. But if you do not destroy the inhabitants of the land from before your face, it shall be that those whom you let remain shall be thorns in your eyes and arrows in your sides, and they shall be at enmity with you in the land where you dwell. Moreover, it shall be that I will do to you as I thought to do to them,